a red flag flying here.
When I was 8 years old, my dad went on strike from work, along with another 150,000 miners. It was the 6th of March 1984, and he'd be on strike for almost a year. As a young child, I didn't notice much difference at first, other than my dad was around at home a lot more. The financial implications of dad being on strike wasn't realised by me until much later into the strike. The one thing which has stuck in my mind ever since, though, was the Christmas of 1984. It was a very solemn Christmas, due to my maternal granddad dying of a heart attack just weeks before Christmas. He was only 64 years old and had retired from working in the pits due to pneumoconiosis. The thing I remember most about that Christmas, though, was a gift I received from the French miners. I was told at the time where the present came from. I wasn't told it was from Santa. I think that was because my parents wanted me to understand that there were people in other countries supporting what my dad and his comrades were doing here, despite what the news and the papers were telling the world they were the enemy within. That present was a small 12-inch suitcase. It was black with white and red stripes, very 1980s. And I used that case to carry my chalk, hand grips and slippers in for gymnastics until I retired in my mid to late teens. It wasn't until I was older and started to discover politics and my socialist roots that I got more interested in the miners' strike. It was then I discovered the incredible support that the miners and their families got from the local and wider communities. Women's support groups were set up in the first few weeks of the strike in East Durham with a view to feeding the families of the miners through the free cafe in Easington where my dad worked, and the weekly food parcels they organised for families with donations from local businesses. They also organised Christmas presents for every child of a striking miner in East Durham and turkeys at Christmas, as well as supporting the miners on the picket lines and speaking at public meetings all over the country. Heather Wood and her mother Myrtle were at the forefront of this initiative, and many years later I got to know Heather and Myrtle through the Women's Banner Group. Sadly, Myrtle passed away last year, but I remain very close friends with Heather, and she knows just how much I appreciate what she and the other women did for my family and me during the strike. I joined the Labour Party in 2015 and started to attend branch meetings and became very good friends with two of the founding members of the branch, Andrew Smith and Ernie Foster, both former coal miners. And during the strike, every week Andrew stood in the marketplace of my hometown of Spennymoor, which back then had a bustling Saturday market, with a collection bucket to collect money for the striking miners, whilst Ernie drove all over the country with the Durham Miners Association as a member of their executive, gathering support. But it wasn't just the women's support groups, local community and former miners who lent their solidarity and support to the striking miners. It was also groups like LGSM, Lesbians and Gays Support the Miners, who supported the Welsh striking miners with overwhelming generosity. Thanks to Mike Jackson and Mark Ashton, who were founding members of LGSM, a collection was formed to raise money to sustain the miners and their families. This money was collected at gay pubs and clubs, as well as from buckets in the streets. The biggest fundraising event was the Pits and Perverts Benefits Ball, which was held in London in 1984 and raised £5,650, equivalent to £20,000 in today's money. They supported the miners due to having a shared experience. The miners were victims of the oppressive force of the government, media and police, and this was something that the LGBT community had also long been suffering from. This act of solidarity by LGSM is probably one of the strongest acts of solidarity in gay history. And at the end of the strike, this new alliance had an incredible impact politically as well. A motion was finally passed to play gay and lesbian rights into the Labour Party manifesto. So thanks to the selfless acts of solidarity shown by the LGBT community, the NUM, as one of the largest unions at the time, supported placing gay rights into the Labour Party's agenda, stating their slogan, "Miners support gays and lesbians." In my lifetime, I've never experienced or witnessed such amazing and selfless acts of solidarity as during the miners' strike of 1984-1985. Solidarity, comrades.
a red flag flying here.